Hey guys, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Voyager passenger side camera here on a 2011 Coachmen Freelander Class C motorhome. This side camera is going to help improve your visibility and minimize blind spots that you typically would have whenever you're trying to back up your big bulky motorhome. It's going to give you a 154-degree viewing angle. The lens that's over the actual camera lens itself is rubber, and it's going to help prevent any scratches or other damage from ruining the view that you have. This camera is going to come with a CMOS sensor that's going to create a high quality digital video in full color to make things a little bit easier. And it's also going to have an anti-blooming feature that's going to help eliminate bright areas. So when you're out in the sun or in the daylight and then the sun's kind of beating down on this, you're not going to have big white splotchy view. You're actually going to be able to see what you have behind and alongside you. The cover is made of a durable aluminum construction, and what that's going to do is help prevent any rust or corrosion from happening. And it does come in a gray primer so that you can paint it yourself to match the aesthetics of your trailer or motorhome. As far as installation goes, it can vary quite a bit depending on the setup of your trailer. With ours today, it wasn't too bad, but I could see where you could run into some issues if you don't really have a good opening to get your camera wire all the way from the camera over to your monitor. Now with that, you'll also need to make sure that you get the correct length. I went a little bit overboard with a 25-foot cable today, but you could get a smaller one or a larger one depending on where you need to route that line. So the first thing we're going to need to do is figure out our placement for our side view camera. Now there isn't really a great option here just because of how we're going to have to sneak the wire through our walls. Really, we have open space all under this trim going the whole length down. The only problem with that is our hinge kind of sits in the way a little bit, but we've also gone ahead and kind of looked at it, and even if I place this here, the hinge kind of lines up completely with the line of the trailer in the camera's viewpoint. So even if we put it past the door, it's still going to have that same exact view. It'll just be kind of white because you're catching the edge of the trailer versus, or the motorhome versus just that black from that hinge. So I think the better option is going to be to have it here, even though you will kind of see that just a little bit. But we'll go ahead and we'll kind of figure out the route that we're going to go through and show you how we did it. So I've gone ahead and removed the trim panel that's right here that you normally step into. We're going to sneak our cable through this and then up into the dash so we can get to our stereo. But we have to get over to the body of our motorhome here. So I've gone ahead, I've pulled this little trim out that covers our seatbelt, and on the other side I have a drill bit kind of sticking through from the bottom. It's a little hard to see, but I'll pull up this cover right here. You can see my bit is sticking out right here. So now that I know I can get through, I'm going to go ahead and take a hole saw. It's about the size of my connector, so I can pass that through. Now that I've got my hole drilled out, I can start sliding in our wire. Should be able to see it coming towards you here. And then we can go ahead and figure out our spot exactly for our camera and then drill into the sidewall of our motorhome here and get these connected. Now that we know exactly where we're going to put our camera, I'm going to go ahead and mark it. I'm trying to get this as far back as I can up against the side here. That way we get more of a view. But we can go ahead and just kind of mark that out with a paint marker, and then we're going to take a 3/4 inch hole saw and cut out our hole so that we can pass our wiring through. And if you look at your wiring, you also have this little gasket that'll pop in there and kind of seal up that hole. Now it doesn't have that large of a spacing in there, so if you find that your camper wall is just a little bit too thick, you can also just get some gasket maker and kind of spray it in there and close up that opening. Obviously that's a little bit too big for that gap, so we're not going to be able to use that gasket. We're going to slip our cable in, get it all the way through. I might have to persuade it on this end. There we go. And once we have it in place, you can kind of fix this gasket. It keeps wanting to kind of pop off, but it's got these little pull tabs. And then there's going to be 4 holes for some screws. So I'm going to get one of these in place to start. And then we can get the front ones. These front ones are going to be a little bit more of a challenge just because the camera itself is kind of in the way. But you can kind of slide the camera up and down. There we go. And as you start sinking those screws in, it's going to seal up against this gasket that comes with it. Now these screws are going to be something you have to source yourself. They do not come with any because they don't know exactly what you're going to be drilling into. Put that in, and then the camera can move just a tiny bit. There's a little bit of a track on this backside, and there's 2 screws that kind of hold it, but they're loose enough that you can kind of slide it down, get one screw in, and then slide it back up, and then get the other one in. Now we have that in place, we can go ahead and grab our cover and also kind of just slide our camera back to the center. I've already gone ahead and just popped on the cover. It'll just press right on, and then you're going to have a baggie with your kit that's going to have this tiny little screw in it, and this is what's going to secure that on. Let's get that in and get our screws started. You may need to kind of wiggle the cover just a bit to get it lined up perfectly. And once we tighten that up, let her hold our cover in place, and we can start running our wiring up through our dash. I'm just popping these 2 cables together, our extension and our actual camera, and we can kind of tuck that right back up into the motorhome. And on this back side, I'm going to take some gasket maker and just pour some in there to kind of keep this from being able to move. I've gone ahead and kind of ground out a little bit of space here so that our wire can kind of sit flatter, and then it's not going to be up against this sharp edge. So I just took my grinding bit, kind of started out going up and down, kind of digging in so it can kind of sit in here a little bit better, and then also at an angle so it's not a severe kind of drop off, it's just kind of slowly going over it. And then same thing over on the other side as well, right here. That way when we sneak it up in through our trim panel here, we don't have it kind of fighting against this whole edge that's actually pretty sharp, so we could end up having that damage our wire. So definitely want to go ahead and kind of grind that down, make sure it's a little bit softer and kind of angled so we're not putting any pressure on that wire. Got my stereo pulled out, and I've kind of just reached back in here, and I can actually see my fingers through this little trim panel right here. So it's going to be really easy to sneak our cable across. So we'll go ahead and throw in some airline tube. And that way we can tape our connector to it and then just pull it all the way through. We may have to end up removing this panel, but we can try and do it first without doing that, just to make things easier for ourselves, a little bit less work. There we go. All right, I'm gonna get down there and we can see where this came out. Got my connector taped up to my airline tube that I'm gonna be able to pull right through here. Sneak that back up. Might get a little stuck in here. There are a few tight spots, but there we go. Now we've got it out. And what I can do is, after we get this all hooked up, we can just hide that excess wire up with our other wiring harnesses that are right here, just with some zip ties. And then the extra excess that I have, I'm going to stick behind this panel. Now there are a bunch of different sizes of the extension cords. We're using the 25 foot on this just because I didn't know exactly how far we would have to really hide all this. But you could probably get away with using like a 10 foot or 15 foot one. We go ahead and plug this in. We have camera 1, 2, and 3 on our stereo system. Obviously you will have to have a system that's set up to work with this camera system. If you already have that rear one in place, then you should have this on the back of your stereo or whatever kind of monitor you have hooked up with it. We'll go ahead and push that in. You want to make sure that the long side right there, it's got that little clip kind of hanging off. That's going to only go in one way, and on the other side it's going to have a retention clip. So we'll pop that right in. You'll hear it click, and then we can put our stereo back in place and test out our new camera. So we have it on channel 3. We have a clear picture of our side view here. You can easily see what's alongside of you or if you need that extra help, just because all these motorhomes typically have a big bulky body. It's really hard to see in those rear view mirrors or even the side mirrors, just to see what you're trying to back up into. So this is going to make our neighbor's life a whole lot easier when he's trying to pull us into a parking spot. So I've left a little bit of excess wire here just because once this sits in here, I don't want it getting caught on anything or being just too tight and then getting damaged in any way. And then I've snaked it up through our panel here. I've attached it to a wire harness that we have running behind this right here, and then I just zip tied it a few times and threw the excess up out of the way and then zip tied it in place. So it's pretty hard to kind of see on camera, but I just kind of had to feel around up there and then, like I said, zip tie it in place with the extra wiring harnesses that are sitting there. But now that that's all done, we can go ahead and put all of our panels back in place, and that'll complete our installation. Well, I think that about does it for today's installation of the Voyager passenger side camera here on our 2011 Coachmen Freelander Class C motorhome. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.